All right. Next, we're going to be talking a little bit about Amy Tan's Two Kinds. It's an excerpt also from her very, very famous book, The Joy Luck Club. It was made into a movie back in the 80s. It's probably before many of your times, but nevertheless, it was a wildly popular book and a wildly popular film, and rightly so. It's really interesting. It's fun. It's interesting. It's funny. If you haven't seen it, you ought to go see it or go get it off of Netflix or whatever. And this particular excerpt is from that collection, really, kind of stories. It too is kind of a collection of things. It tells one big long story, but these are kind of, I would describe them as sort of little vignettes, and this is a particularly poignant one. Very well put together. If you didn't see the ending coming, where she kind of wraps it up with the music, and the two different pieces, you walk away going, now that was pretty cleverly done. It was pretty well crafted. This too is dealing with, and here just a little bit more sharply, an intergenerational culture clash, as I put it. Mouthful there, but it's I think probably pretty accurate. That's Tan up in the upper right hand corner. That's not Tan over in the upper left. It's a scene from the movie where she has the Peter Pan haircut, which she kind of hates but kind of likes anyway. This is going to be dealing with sort of the darker side of the American dream. I don't want to paint too negative a picture because I think she walks away with a lot of positive from it. But, of course, a major thing is how a lot of parents project their hopes on their own children, and particularly immigrant parents, and that's, probably be corner her. She would say, look, it's the only kind of parents I know because that's my parents, So I'm writing about what I know, and that's what I know, is that immigrant parents or mine did anyway, had this big tendency to want to do that. But because of course they went through, hers anyway, went through terrible loss and suffering. Her mother in particular, losing twins and losing everything. And of course this happened, by the way, in the revolution, the communist revolution, excuse me, in mainland China, which ended in 1949 with the ouster of Chiang Kai-shek and pretty much the exile of the old regime to the island of Formosa, now known as Taiwan. So politically, you have two Chinas. You had three. You really had Hong Kong, which was controlled by the British. They ceded that back over to the People's Republic of China. But Taiwan is still an island of in the South China Sea that resists communist Chinese government and probably will for some time. Anyway, they lost everything in the revolution. They lost, and her mother especially, and it's a really poignant piece. And it's hard to make a villain out of anybody here. She's a child, so children do this kind of stuff, right? I mean, they don't like having stuff forced on her. She was a very willful child by her own admission, and a clever little kid, too. Knew how to get out of things, knew how to throw just the right kind of fit, knew how to push her mom's buttons. The mother is not a villain either. If you understand the backstory of her life, you should have enormous sympathy for her, but you can still see her doing a lot of things that are really bad choices, really bad decisions that are going to have not so great consequences. It's sad because there's this throughout the text, there's this pervasive sense of failure or disappointment, and the legacy of failure and disappointment is also very important. The mother experiences tremendous sense of failure and disappointment because of all of the loss that she had. She lost a family, she lost a home, she lost everything she had in the world and had to start all over again, and sees America as this great do-over opportunity. And that can be great. That can be, you say, wow, like the phoenix from the ashes, this person's going to build a new life for herself and for her family. But then there's this tremendous pressure she puts on her own daughter that is exceedingly corrosive. I don't know that there's any other way to put it except corrosive, because the expectations are so high. Let's take a look at a couple of passages here. And it starts out, and it's kind of bittersweet. It's kind of funny, but not funny. The movie does a good job of sort of capturing the sense of both the sadness but also the funniness in their lives. My mother believed you could be anything you wanted to be in America. You could open a restaurant. You could work for the government and get good retirement. You could buy a house with almost no money down. You could become rich. You could become instantly famous. Of course, you can be a prodigy too. America was where all my mother's hopes lay. She had come to San Francisco in 1949 after losing everything in China. Her mother and father, her family home, her first husband, and 2 daughters, twin baby girls. She lost everything, right? That's an important piece because it comes up later in the story when Amy, as a little girl, says something really, really cruel and unkind. And it's very, very hurtful. Her mother has all these hopes and dreams for her. I want my kid to be famous. I want her to be a child prodigy. I want her to be terrific. Now, a lot has been said by Asian American young kids, especially about the so-called tiger mom phenomenon. Go Google that, okay? About how, immigrant families from China and from Vietnam and from different Korea, the moms can be really something else about, making sure that their children study and succeed and work really hard and all those kinds of things. And that's very admirable, right? But this is from what was the child's perspective, now a grown woman, and saying, I hated it. I really just hated it. And as a child, you can't understand what your parents went through to make them the way they are. You just can't help it. She tries to dress her up. She tries to do her hair to make her look like a sort of a Chinese Shirley Temple. If you don't know who Shirley Temple is, Google her too. And it doesn't work out right. The hairdo is terrible because she takes her to some beauty school to get a trainee to do it, and then they redo it and just hack it all to heck, and she looks like some weird warped Peter Pan kid. It's kind of funny, but it's not funny, okay? But it is kind of funny when you imagine, oh my gosh, what did they do to this poor child's hair? In all my imaginings, I was filled with a sense that I would soon become perfect. But sometimes the prodigy in me became impatient. If you don't hurry up and get me out of here, I'm disappearing for good, it warned. So she feels like I've got this prodigy inside of me. I'm going to be this little genius kid at something, at music or whatever it is, whatever it happens to be, dancing or something. But if I don't hurry up and get this prodigy out of me, it's going to go away, right? It warned. And then you'll always be nothing. Right? Think about that. The pressure that the little kid felt that if I don't become some miracle kid, I'm nothing. My mother and I would sit at the Formica kitchen table. She would present new tests, taking her examples from stories of amazing children that she read in Ripley's or Good Housekeeping. And her mother was a housekeeper, right? She had a family. She was probably fairly prominent and became a housekeeper because she had to start all over and lost it all and worked like a dog day and night, no doubt, right? What's the capital of Finland? Nairobi? Because it was the most foreign word I could think of. The test got harder, trying to stand on my head without using my hands. Ouch. Predicting the daily temperatures in Los Angeles, New York, and London. It's almost as though the mother is trying to find something that the child is a prodigy at. And a prodigy is like a little genius, way ahead of all the other kids that age, right? A gifted kid. So I got to try to get her to dance. Well, that's not her prodigy thing. She'll be a genius, like an academic. No, okay, she doesn't like the tests I give her. I know, I'm going to make her play piano. She'll be a child prodigy piano player, right? After seeing my mother's disappointed face once again, something inside of me began to die. I hated the tests, the raised hopes and failed expectations. This is where she begins to say, okay, enough already. I get it. You want something really great for me. You want something wonderful for me, but you're killing me, lady. And this ordinary face began to cry, such a sad, ugly girl that she would say to herself in the mirror. She felt like a miserable failure, and she felt like, I'm not some little beauty pageant kid. I'm not a genius, and when her mother decides, we're going to teach you piano and you're going to become a little Mozart, she rebels against it, partly because it's kind of comical. She hires probably the only deaf piano teacher in San Francisco, who basically thinks everything sounds great because he can't hear a thing. And so look at what she says. The girl staring back at me in the mirror was angry, powerful, thoughts filled with lots of won'ts. I won't let her change me, I promise myself. I won't be what I'm not. So now on nights when my mother pressed her tests, I performed listlessly, my head propped on one arm. I pretended to be bored, and I was. At last she was beginning to give up hope. 2 or 3 months went by without any mention of my being a prodigy again. And then the Ed Sullivan Show comes on, right? You're too young for the Ed Sullivan Show. I actually saw the Ed Sullivan Show when I was a kid, and it was an amazing show. It was pretty fun. They would bring on all kinds of acts, acrobats and child prodigies and comedians and musicians. It was like a variety show, which was a ton of fun. And so there was loud piano music by a child piano player, and her mother, of course, says, "Nikan, look here." She was proud. She was proudly modest, like a proper Chinese child. That's a great line. She was proudly modest. Listen to that. Listen to that oxymoron there. She's trying to give us a glimpse into what the ethos is of her family's culture. You have to be modest, but you have to be proudly modest, right? That's an interesting thin line you got to walk, I guess. She's pretty good. Maybe she's not the best, but she's trying hard. I knew almost immediately I would be sorry I said that. Just like you, not the best because you're not trying. Every day, 2 hours a day, from 4 to 6, she practices piano. Oh, gosh, okay. She says, when my mother told me this, I felt as though I had been sent to hell. So she goes and practices with old Chang. Old Chong, and old lady Chong, his mother, who's got weird skin. And so it's really funny, but it's kind of, darkly funny. She does the recital, and she absolutely bombs. Partly from her own fault, partly because she has a terrible teacher, partly because everybody's expectations were too high. And the embarrassment and the humiliation. By the way, down in the bottom right, I don't know if it's going to come out as a GIF or not, probably not, but it's a scene from the movie version of it. I asked my daughter to help me carry grocery. She thinks this is too much to ask. All day long she played chess. I dust off all her trophy. Appreciate me? No. You're lucky you don't have the same problem, right? Remember that line? And then her mother sort of bristles and says, you know what, though? She's really a fantastic music performer, and so on. So her mother builds everybody up to think she is a prodigy, and she absolutely bombs, which is a source of tremendous humiliation. And afterwards, the little kid named Waverly comes up to her, the chess player, and says, "You aren't a genius like me," she said matter-of-factly, as if I hadn't felt so bad. And if I hadn't felt so bad, I would have pulled her braids and punched her stomach. But my mother's expression was what devastated me, a quiet, blank look that said she had lost everything. I felt the same way, and it seemed as if everybody was now coming up like gawkers at the scene of an accident to see what parts were actually missing. Again, that sense of failure and loss and gain. So one of the themes of the story is loss and sacrifice. What did you give up? What did you give up? How do you get it back? Can you get it back? Can you make mistakes in trying to get back that which you lost? And her mother's sense again and again and again of loss over and over and over again. And it's a sad thing. It's a sad life. And some of it's self-inflicted, you see, from the mother. That's what makes it such an interesting story. It's like, I know you lost all this, you would think that she would just hold her daughter very precious and dear to her. I don't want to lose another child. I'll do anything for my child. And she would. But the pressure she places on this child is just unreasonable. And sometimes you get sort of this unwanted gain by the next. I don't want what you want for me, Mother. I don't want that. I want something else for my life. I don't know what it is yet, but I don't want that. Or an unappreciated gain, like the piano that her mother sacrificed tremendously for. But I don't want to be a piano player. No accusations, no blame. She's more devastated by her mother's sense of absolute loss and blankness. I assumed my talent show fiasco meant I had never had to play the piano again, but 2 days later after school, my mother came out of the kitchen and saw me watching TV. 4 o'clock, she reminded me, as if it was just any other day. I was stunned, as though she were going to ask me to go through the talent show torture again. Then I decided I didn't have to do what my mother said anymore, and I wasn't her slave. This wasn't China, right? Look at that. I had listened to her before, and look what happened. She was the stupid one, right? It's not China. I'm not going to live by the way you lived. I'm not going to live in your culture. I'm in a new culture, in a new country. Your old ways are not going to bind me. And she acts out as a result, something that a child at that time from that country would never do. I'll never be the kind of daughter you want me to be. Only 2 kinds of daughters, she shouted in Chinese. Those who are obedient and those who follow their own mind. Only one kind of daughter can live in this house. Obedient daughter. "Then I wish I wasn't your daughter. I wish you weren't my mother," I shouted. Too late to change this, and that's when I remembered the babies that she had lost in China, the ones we never talked about. "Then I wish I'd never been born," I shouted. "I wish I were dead, like them." And that was a really, really terrible thing to do. But kids do it, right? I mean, kids say really terrible things. The mother's response is more devastating than anything else. It was as if I had said magic words, alakazam, and her face went blank, her mouth closed, her arms went slack, and she backed out of the room, stunned, as if she were blowing away like a small brown leaf, thin, brittle, lifeless. You know what, little kid? You won the argument. But that was a horrible way to win it. And it hurt her badly. Forever, right? As in, you failed with your first two daughters and you're failing with me. And I don't want to be your daughter either. It was a wicked thing to do. But hey, kids do it, right? I mean, they do that kind of stuff. She goes on with a really powerful sort of section here. "It was not the only disappointment my mother felt in me. In the years that followed, I failed her so many times, each time asserting my will, my right to fall short of expectations. I didn't get straight A's. I didn't become class president. I didn't get into Stanford. I dropped out of college. For unlike my mother, I did not believe I could be anything I wanted to be. I could only be me. And for all those years, we never talked about the disaster at the recital or my terrible accusations afterwards at the piano bench. All that remained unchecked, like a betrayal that was now unspeakable. In other words, that horrible thing I said after that horrible thing that happened, we don't talk about it anymore, right? So I never found a way to ask her why she had hoped for something so large that failure was inevitable." Now that's a great line, right? You wanted something that was so big for me that you made my failure inevitable, which was damaging, right? It was a really damaging thing. This is a very sad and complex relationship between the mom and the daughter here, isn't it? It's sad and it's complicated because they really kind of love each other and want to love each other, but both of them are really pulling on this string in different directions. And even worse, I never asked her what frightened me the most. Why had she given up hope? Her mom just gave up on her. It's like, what'd you do that for? It's like, well, I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, look at what you did. Look at how you reacted. I tried my best with you. Yeah, but I was just telling you not to do it that way. I didn't tell you to give up hope on me. Just because I couldn't be perfect, you gave up hope on me. For after our struggle at the piano, she never mentioned my playing again. The lesson stopped. The lid to the piano was closed, shutting out the dust, my misery, and her dreams. And that was it. And then the piano stays there for years and years, just a piece of furniture that everybody walks by but nobody talks about. Wow, that's amazing. But then when she turns 30, her mother says, "You want the piano?" And kind of opens that door just a little bit again. And she says, "I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. No, not really. I don't know." She says, "Last week, I sent a tuner over to my parents' apartment and had the piano reconditioned for purely sentimental reasons. My mother had died a few months before, and I had been getting things in order for my father, a little bit at a time. Put the jewelry in a special silk pouch, the sweaters, the silk dresses. Inside the bench of the piano were the same exercise notes with handwritten scales, the same second-hand music books with their covers held together with yellow tape. I opened up the Schumann book to the dark little piece I had played at the recital. It was on the left-hand side of the page, Pleading Child. It looked more difficult than I remembered. I played a few bars, surprised at how easily the notes came back to me. And for the first time, or so it seemed, I noticed the piece on the right-hand side. It was called Perfectly Contented. I tried to play this one as well. It had a lighter melody, but with the same flowing rhythm, and turned out to be quite easy. Pleading Child was shorter, but slower. Perfectly Contented was longer, but faster. And after I played them both a few times, I realized they were two halves of the same song. Now let that sink in for a moment. There's something at the end of this that has enormous sort of self-awareness. that at age 30 she says, oh my God, pleading child, perfectly contented. They're two halves of the same song. They are the same thing. I am the same person. I have these two sides to me. The piano becomes a symbol. The music is under the bench, hidden. It doesn't move. The piano's sitting there. No one speaks about it. It's the furniture in the room that no one talks about, just like their relationship and the obstacles and all those kinds of things. What are we to make of these two works? Pleading child and perfectly contented. The piano is a symbol, but of what? And what are the two titles, which really are two halves of the same song? How does that sort of encapsulate her growing up, or her being who she is, or becoming who she is? This is a short piece, but it's really profound and complex. We're going to do our discussions on both of these, so contribute to both of the discussion threads if you would, and I'll post the quiz on Blackboard for you.